Righto, Sparky Coach Podcast. Welcome back, Cam here, and we've got our Crow man as always. Shout out to you, Crowie. How's the weather?
The weather's actually really nice. Went surfing this morning. I surfed yesterday in boardies.
Yes.
So it's good times. It feels
I feel
like
the season is changing. Like we sort of touched on earlier.
The season is changing. And speaking of seasons, we're talking about roadblocks in your business and the blockages or stoppages you might hit.
Bottleneck, maybe roadblock, bottleneck, stoppages.
Yeah, give way sign.
Maybe.
What else have you got?
Give way is just a guide.
Oh man, crazy.
But yeah, blockages and stoppages and all sorts of things in between. So
we went through what things are busy.
Yeah.
Over that, and now I want to get to this, and you brought this up this morning. One of the huge blockages you see business owners go through, and we have a no dickhead policy, which is real cool. Like there's no one in our program that I wouldn't have a beer with, I guess you would say, or a kombucha, whatever you're going for, it's cool. But yeah, so like I think everyone's pretty nice. And everyone is quite, and you see a lot of business owners start their business, and because they're good at their job, why they're good at their job, usually they care on site and off site, and then you take this level of care to a sort of startup business. It's fantastic because you're getting back to people, you're fitting people in, you're very accommodating, and you take that level of care to you take that level of care. And you keep prioritizing, keep fitting people in last minute. Like sometimes you can be too accommodating to clients. Now, I'm not saying to not do a good job. We're not saying to you can't put that level of care to everyone. But there's a point when people ask things of you. So great example here might be like, I just need that thing done, urgently. And it's repeatedly the same person asking repeatedly the urgent situation. Now, I'm not talking about your commercial client that actually has an emergency called up, but I am talking about those times in your business where you can be just too accommodating clients and there's no sort of self-care there. There's no, you're sort of smoking your time around, smoking your money around and, all that kind of stuff. But so what do you think, Cam? Too accommodating? Where does your head go to?
Yeah, it's almost like I look at it as like you're actually enabling the busyness. And the only person who you really have to blame in this situation is yourself, because you're actually causing the issue. The client's not causing the issue by asking you. You're causing the issue by being so accommodating to them. So you're like, yeah, I can do that, and full well knowing that you have a week's work of work already scheduled out, and you only have like a small window, which you've probably already committed to 3 other jobs in. So it's like, I don't even know how I'm going to have the small job Friday scenario. It's like I had a little window and I've committed to Betty, Sue and Robbo already. And you get to Betty's job and Betty's job is bigger than Ben-Hur. So you cooked it already. So the accommodating mentality, really, really good, obviously on a lot of, a lot of parts in regards to just the mentality around it. It's just like, hey, look, I want to be helpful. I want to be here to help service people and all those sorts of bits and pieces. But it's obviously can be very detrimental to yourself by being overly accommodating when it's full well known that you actually can't service that particular person. And I think this is where I look at the schedule, really important to have a look at. Like if you've got, let's just call you've got a number of staff, right? So it could be 2, it could be 4, it could be 6, it could be 8. It doesn't really matter what it is. And you're there on Friday and you've scheduled your week out, and like everyone has 40 hours in their week. Like next week, you're like, I am the schedule lord. Like I have nailed this week, right? And then
wearing like a sorting hat on and some kind of candle to the trade gods and a couple of pairs of pliers being sacrificed in the outdoor fire pit
to kill it. And you've absolutely nailed it, right? So you've got, you could literally not turn up on Monday. Like that's how good you think you've got it. You've like, everyone is sweet for the week. It's all good. It's happy, right? Then we have a gigantic thunderstorm. It rains all weekend, and the first job on Monday is a 150 metre underground that is now cancelled, right? So you're like, oh my God, I've been thrown into disarray immediately, and it's only been 24 hours, 48 hours since I organised it. On the flip side of that, like that's a scenario where it hits you in between the eyes of like, oh my God. On the flip side of that, you've got it all sorted, weather's perfect, everyone's on time, and then you've got 3 clients that ring you on Monday and they're like, oh, hey mate, I've got like that kitchen that we did the other week, they move in on Saturday. My bad, sorry, I forgot to tell you about that. But yeah, like that's the story. So you'll make that work for me, won't you? And then, job 2 comes in and it's just like, it's your best client that you have, and they're like, hey, we had a fire over the weekend and we need to make safe sorted at this particular job. And then something else pops up. So you have no capacity now because you've made this week amazingly scheduled out, but with no room to move and no tolerance anywhere along the way. So you've made no allowances, no accommodations here to service your existing client base. So there's that scenario. Then on the flip side, there's the other scenario of where you just say yes to everyone, full well knowing, like I said at the beginning. So what I'm trying to get at here is that there's multiple ways to be looking at what you can be perceived as being too accommodating or not accommodating enough. And I would say all of those scenarios are just as paralyzing and debilitating as each other, because it just causes this stress that you shouldn't need. So like, I look at it really simply. It's like, hey, we've got everyone booked out on the projects side of things, and then we've got Dicko and Robbo, they just got Monday, Tuesday sorted. That's it. So then immediately you have capacity, and then you might go to the next week and it's like, oh, Dicko and Robbo are going to do this job on Monday, Tuesday, and everyone else is still full. But you've allowed yourself to have the capacity to be accommodating when you need to be accommodating. Does that make sense, Crowie?
Yeah, 100%. So my head with accommodating goes usually like this. If you had a spiel, like if you had a cover letter for your business, it'd be something along the lines of, we're delivering on time, on budget, and above expectation. Something like that. So you want to be on time, on budget, above expectation, which I think we'd all be striving toward as business owners. So being too accommodating goes into sort of 3 parts for me, like too accommodating with time, like over committing or under committing to a job, or, the time comes into it, which you just touched on. Budget comes in, like too accommodating with budget, trying to fit. You've all had those clients that are, you walk into adding like the Taj Mahal, and you're like, didn't you say you had $5,000? And like, oh yeah, that doesn't actually, the puzzle piece doesn't fit here, So the time piece doesn't fit, the budget piece doesn't fit, and the expectation bit is super interesting for me to go for, especially as you are a business owner. If you're in that pathway toward off the tools, and you'll know my thoughts on off the tools, it's actually a mathematical calculation, and you don't actually want to be off the tools if it's not calculated enough, and you need to know the numbers there. But like, sometimes the business owner, as you start out, you're so accommodating to the time, budget, and expectation that you can start to, I remember me and Elodie had dinner in the Greek islands one time. This guy just kept bringing out vine leaves, and like we talk about something on the menu. He's like, I saw this. I heard you talking about vine leaves on the house, guys, on the house. That's my American accent. If you can't tell, that's the best I can do there. You kept bringing stuff out, right? Does that sound American a bit or nah?
It's like, I don't know what. I don't think it sounded like anything.
Just my normal voice.
Like your normal voice with like a little bit of like,
Yeah, that's easy. Bring out the vine leaves, right? Whatever. He kept bringing stuff out. And I'm like, I wonder what would happen if we came there every day. Like, can he be that accommodating the whole time? Maybe he can, but it's like, I think the thing as a business owner, you start being so accommodating budget and giving things away, and like a classic case scenario where someone asks how much it is and you go like $2,000, and you know it's not $2,000, it might be $3,000, but you felt bad because they were out of budget, and then now you've sort of delivered over expectation because you've committed to something you can't commit to budget-wise, and now you've committed to something time-wise you can't commit to, and now the client's been acclimatized to your level of service, which you haven't been paid for, and you can really box yourself into being so accommodating. Now the next time you want to go and charge for this stuff, right? Now you've set an expectation or a precedent that you don't charge for that stuff, and it can be quite murky waters. You've got to sort of like, if you've been way too accommodating, the pendulum can't just swing back the other way too aggressive. I can't accommodate and now aggressively not accommodate. So you've got to be really careful on that trajectory. A lot of times you see people start to measure their hours and measure their numbers, measure their days and weeks and months, and they're like, we're not making money. It's because I keep giving away stuff. And you're like, gah, charge! Russell Crowe, like gladiator style, just fight to the death for every dollar and cent. But that wasn't the precedent that was established. So it can be quite murky territory, I think, the accommodating. But I think the biggest thing that we always come back to at Sparky Coach is one of our core philosophies, and we have many. One of our core ones is like, you have to see yourself as the CEO, as the sort of like, as the COO, as an operations manager, whatever you want to call it, of your business. So you're responsible for the profitability and the productivity and the efficiency and the work that it produces. You're responsible for that. It's not emotional. That it's your job to make the business profitable and organized, and somewhere where people want to come to work and somewhere that clients want to come to work with, right? So it's like, if you bring it back to cut the emotion out of the whole thing and be like, okay, let's just, what can we do and what can't we do? And I think what I'm trying to say here is, you've got to be accommodating to the business first. Now, I'm not saying don't give away anything for free, all that kind of stuff. I'm just saying it has to make sense for the business first and foremost. Would you make that decision if you came into my business? You wouldn't have the hierarchy or the authority to give away stuff. So it's like, but what if you didn't have that in your business as well? What if your role was specifically designed and crafted to make the business profitable? So that's where my head goes to, where you can be too accommodating budget-wise, time-wise, and then expectation-wise.
Expectations and standards. Yeah, I think that's probably really, really well summarised there. That you basically fall outside what you would deem acceptable, and what you would deem to be, this is what we base our business around. And it's okay to have some kind of standard, some kind of, policy almost sort of thing that you're adhering to. And I mean, a policy is probably like too big of a word, but what are your sort of beliefs? What do you sort of want the business to stand for? And it doesn't have to be much at all, but it can just be like, yeah, tick, tick, tick. And if you start moving outside of those boundaries that you sort of, what the Crowie sort of touched on there, and every business is going to be slightly different, I think that is an indicator that you're probably moving around from where you sort of core beliefs or core standards are sitting, and this is going to start impacting you being like too accommodating or not accommodating enough anymore, which is detrimental to what you're trying to achieve within your business. And I think one thing that we, set out to achieve as business owners is like, we get told a lot that, I would say, 95% of people, we could probably say, they say probably the same 3 or 4 things when we speak to them about, hey, why did you start your business? What were you sort of looking for? And, everyone's the best Sparky just about, that they were at their previous life. Really, really good electrician, really capable, had the care, had the drive, all those sorts of bits and pieces. And we're just looking forward to, having a bit more time, having a bit of freedom. And that freedom means so many different things to so many different people. We try and drill down on that a little bit more, because I feel like it's a bit of just a word that's thrown out. What does that look like? And we want to be making money. I would say they're the main things that everyone sort of rolls into. Yet when it sort of starts to get in the grind of things, a lot of the grind, I feel, occurs because there's a lack of education, a lack of knowledge, but it stems from probably just being too accommodating and stepping away. It's just like, the other bloke said he'd do it for $5,000. You're like, I'll do it for $5,000. And you don't even know if you can do it for $5,000 because you haven't actually checked your numbers. The other bloke said he'd do it for $90 an hour, and you're like, I can do it for $90 an hour. And you're like, you don't even know what your cost of operations is. Like, so these are really simple, you know, things that happen. Oh, old mate said it was going to be Clipsal Zen series, Saturn Zen series, and you're like, oh, I only allowed for Clipsal Iconic, and he's like, well, the other guy said it was going to be Zen, so you better do it Zen. And you're like, yeah, we can do that. So you just start creating all these issues and all these problems for yourself by being too accommodating to it all, which is then detrimental, mainly because everything you wanted at the beginning you've probably moved away from, or you just have a little bit of a lack of experience and a lack of understanding. And these are all things that we can definitely have conversations around and help you with to get you on the right path of knowing your numbers, knowing if you're making money, how to back cost jobs, how to hire someone, all these bits and pieces that have a major influence on being able to drive the company in a direction where it is profitable and enjoyable.
You lost me at Saturn Zen. I'm just like, you only install CO25 series. That's it. Oh, 2025, is it?
That's it, yeah.
That's all we install. There's nothing.
I installed 25 series.
That's so good.
There's no classic here, so 2000 series, that's it.
2000, that's right, the 2000 series.
The school
right?
series.
So remember when Classic came out and it was like superseding the
Everyone's
it's all good. It's all good. It has a space and a place. But yeah, no, it's interesting. And I think if you find yourself being too accommodating, once again, you know how we roll, just like you have to just ask yourself the hard question, like, am I too accommodating? For me, it goes back to that accelerated billable hours course we were in the other week with that person who shall remain nameless, who we were measuring this job, and he said the number, and I'm like, as soon as he said the number, we were both like, there's no way you did it for that. And he's like, I know, I got caught on the spot, and I answered, and I felt bad, and I was like, cool. So, you know, I think the biggest thing in that was that he didn't buy himself enough time, you know, and I think if he was operations manager of my company, he wouldn't have done that. But because he had emotional free reign and there was no accountability and there was ultimate hierarchy, I'm the director, the be all and end all of this business, I do what I want when I want, it crashed and burned. So I think if you're finding yourself too accommodating, just pull yourself back and ask yourself where you are. Is it with your time? Is it with your staff's time? Is it with budget? Are you talking about money correctly? Are you talking about money up front? Are you actually shooting yourself in your own foot, but then blaming someone else for doing it, but, you know, the crossbow's in your hand? Or is it with expectation? Are you laying out something that's unachievable to continue? Have you set dangerous precedents with money, with time, like with, well, we'll do that, here's some vine leaves, here's this, here's that. And I think you've just got to pull yourself back, check yourself before you wreck yourself, get some vine, maybe just go buy some vine leaves and sit there and think about what you've done. So that's my suggestion. And I think like at oftentimes, like when sort of wrapping this up, like you've just got to go and sit down for half an hour and am I on the right track? And this is why I think vision is such an important thing to come back to every single month. You might not know exactly where you're going to end up. I don't think any of us do, to be honest. I think you might have a general direction you might want to go in, and that's probably a core ethos. So maybe your core ethos is we do excellent work with excellent materials with excellent people, and you don't know where that's going to take you, really. But if that's the core ethos, and you can bring it back and be like, have I veered away from that? Am I on track for that? Are we installing 2000 series, you know, like when it should be something else? Like, you know, have I put myself down into the wrong client market? I think like doesn't matter how far on you are in business or whether you're starting, you always got to ask yourself those questions. Have I fallen off the wagon? Am I on track? Has the train derailed? You know, has the bus stopped at the bus stop too long? All these kind of questions, and we're not immune to that, but we do want to check in and see where we're at. So my final sign off is, are you too accommodating? I don't know, go get some vine leaves and find out.
I like it.
You like it? All right. Have the best day. See you guys.
Have a great day. Catch ya.
All right.